Hey, hello, and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jennifer Smith, your friendly neighborhood naturopath. I am not a medical doctor, and this information has not been evaluated by the FDA. Therefore, it is not intended to cure, treat, prevent, or diagnose any disease. This is for general educational purposes only, so please speak with your healthcare practitioner for advice specific to your unique condition. Today's discussion centers around peptides, particularly two that might be considered performance peptides. So we've got about 30 minutes of content, followed by 9 minutes of Q&A, and that I will read from the chat, so that way we can wrap up in 30 minutes or 39 minutes. I'm still trying to get my bearings straight on this here, so bear with me. But first off, what are peptides? Peptides are short chains of amino acids, which are the fundamental building blocks of proteins. And our bodies contain tens of thousands of proteins. And most peptides consist of anywhere from 2 to 50 amino acids. And some familiar examples of peptides that the body produces includes insulin. I'm sure you've heard of that. For that the pancreas produces oxytocin. It's kind of that love hormone that or peptide that mamas produce when they have babies. I'm sure you've also heard of the thyroid stimulating hormone or human growth hormone. So those are all examples of peptides that the body naturally produces. Now I mentioned that peptides typically consist of anywhere from 2 to 50 amino acids in a chain. But the shorter peptides that range from 2 to 4 amino acids in lengths are considered bioregulators because they regulate cellular functions and support organ health. So the shorter the bioregulator peptides, as far as I'm concerned, actually do more for the body. And the two bioregulators that we're going to talk about today are the GHK copper peptide and the AHK copper peptide. So, how can you benefit from peptides? So, you've probably been hearing a lot lately about exogenous or therapeutic peptides, meaning those that are coming from an outside source rather than what the body makes on its own. And with those peptides, the delivery method can be oral, topical, intravenous, or in most cases, subcutaneous injections. So, that's what most people are doing these days with peptides. They're getting vials, and in some cases it's a powder that they're mixing with a special kind of water, and then they're injecting that. They're grabbing a little chunk of fat around their midsection and injecting that subcutaneously. So these mostly injectable peptides are known as biohacks because as we age, especially if you have poor lifestyle habits, but really for everyone, as we age, our endogenous peptide levels decline just about like everything else pretty much does, and our injuries don't heal as quickly. We find it hard to lose excess weight. We lose things like muscle tone and bone density, things like that. Hence the draw that people have to injectable peptides. But perhaps the most well-known injectable peptide that I'm sure you've all heard of is Ozempic for weight loss, and there are some others under that same name. Another popular one is BP57, or BPC 157, and that's kind of known for like relieving gut issues and joint repair, and I think it has some cardiovascular benefits as well. So most injectable peptides are not FDA approved, which is not necessarily a bad thing. So they're often obtained from a compounding pharmacy or through online sources and they fall under the research chemicals loophole if you buy them online. So it's really, you can say that you're using them for a science experiment. So that hence the loophole of a research chemical. And so it's really up to the user in that case to verify third-party testing for things like purity, bacterial endotoxins, heavy metals, sterility, things like that. So you just want to make sure you're getting a quality product. But furthermore, some injectable peptides are for short-term use only. I mean, there's a lot to know about them. Others need to be very closely monitored for to adjust the dosage because some of them you'll want to really dose up high levels at first and then gradually lower the dosage. Others need to be cycled. So an example might be maybe 5 days on, 2 days off. I think some injectable peptides are maybe 1 month on, 1 month off, different things like that. So different cycling. But there's also a very wide range of injectable peptide prices, and also note that the FDA has placed some of them in the Category 2 list for potential banning. And so they're just kind of like on a watch list because some things have come up. So again, that just pertains to the injectable peptides that people are getting. And I'm not giving you this information on injectable peptides from the standpoint of judgment at all, or even fear or anything like that. It's just some insight for comparison purposes to help you better understand another way to benefit from elevating peptides that we're going to talk about. So, and the endogenous or native peptides that I'm referring to today are the GHK copper peptide and the AHK copper peptide that can be elevated by wearing the X39 patch and the X49 patch, respectively. So GHK and AHK. And these non-transdermal patches are a form of wearable phototherapy. They are injection-free, dosage-free, and prescription-free. So, why is that? Well, we're light beings. And so think of these patches, I'm wearing one right here. Think of these patches as little mirrors that reflect back wavelengths of light back into the body that we all naturally emit as mammals, rather than injecting them from an outside source. And so, because of that, there are no drug interactions, no dosing concerns, or anything like that. You simply wear each patch for 12 hours a day while fully hydrated. So, very, very simple. No needles, no prescriptions, no dosage, nothing like that. So, the X39 patch reflects back wavelengths of light that elevate the GHK-Cu, which is a bioregulator peptide that we naturally produce. Um, GHK-Cu is primarily found in our plasma, throughout the whole body, but some can also be found like in our saliva and urine, but it primarily circulates throughout the body in our plasma. And like most things, it declines with age. And if you recall that I mentioned that bioregulators are shorter peptide chains of typically 2 to 4 amino acids. So in the case of X39, it's three. It elevates the GHK copper peptide, which is 3 amino acids that function at a cellular level. So that's the difference. Bioregulator peptides function at a cellular level. So the amino acid chain that comprises GHK-Cu is glycine, histidine, and lysine, and which then binds to copper. So the GHK copper peptide, glycine, histidine, and lysine. So what are the benefits to elevating GHK-Cu with the X39 patch? Oh gosh, probably too many to even name on this call today, but it's kind of known for promoting collagen production for wound healing, um, stimulating hair follicles, and producing healthy skin, smoothing wrinkles and scars, things like that. It also is known to reset over 4,000 genes to a younger, healthier state, upregulating those that are involved in tissue repair and angiogenesis while down regulating the inflammatory genes. So it upregulates the good ones and downregulates the not so good ones. Reducing pain and inflammation, that's another common benefit that people report from it. Improves mental clarity and sleep. I think I've experienced all of the benefits, and I've been patching for about 3 years with X39. It improves mental clarity and sleep. I even thought I was a good sleeper, but I sleep even better now. Improves mental clarity and stamina, or energy and stamina, I should say. I already mentioned mental clarity. So energy and stamina, which I've definitely experienced that as well. Also, it elevates SOD and glutathione, which SOD stands for superoxide dismutase, and glutathione, which are also peptides, which that's probably another conversation for another day, but they're good things. SOD and glutathione, it's great to increase those levels as well. And it also promotes pluripotent stem cell activity for repair and regeneration of organs like brain, heart, lungs, even the liver. And so this will always be done in order of what's most critically needed in the body. So I've said before, while you might be wearing the X39 patch to repair and regenerate your injured shoulder, what you may not realize is you may have maybe a problem with your liver, a failing kidney. It could be a heart condition or some condition brewing up that you don't even know about. And so your body is with these tools is going to repair itself in the order of most importance first, whatever's critically needed first in the body, and then it can work its way over to that shoulder. And the shoulder might be first. We don't know, but anyway. And by the way, I'm not positive, but I believe the GHK copper peptide is on the FDA's Category 2 hit list for potential banning. So, but regardless, the X39 patch is only elevating our endogenous levels of GHK-Cu. So it can't be on the hit list. This is only injectable endogenous, or I'm sorry, exogenous peptides. So this is elevating your own native or endogenous peptide, GHK copper peptide. And our bodies will never overdose or reject its own peptides, nor is there the concern of impurities. So, none of that with elevating your own. So many benefits and, no drug interactions or anything like that to worry about. Now, the X49 patch reflects back wavelengths of light to elevate the AHK copper peptide, which is also a bioregulator that we naturally produce. And so you may have heard of people getting AHK copper peptide injections that are used for hair follicle regrowth. But note that that is the synthetic version. It's definitely synthetic. So again, the X49 patch elevates your native endogenous levels, your own natural levels of the AHK copper peptide. So, besides hair regrowth, what are some of the benefits of the AHK copper peptide? Well, it promotes brain and brain health. It protects the brain, I should say, and promotes cognitive function. It also protects the heart and promotes healthy blood pressure. It helps promote lean muscle mass and fat reduction. Now, granted, you'll want to use this in conjunction with exercise, of course, to obtain that benefit of promoting lean muscle mass and fat reduction. But nevertheless, it is going to kind of steamroll that for you and give you better benefits. It also is known to increase bone density. As a matter of fact, I personally know several women who have, I can't make any disease claims here, but I will say that they have been able to reverse a certain diagnosis related to bone density simply by using the X49 patch and elevating their native levels of AHK copper peptide. So, and then, all those benefits that I just mentioned, brain, heart, lean muscle mass, bone density, but probably my favorite benefit to this, and I know I might be different than a lot of people, but a big draw for me is that it helps protect the body against harmful EMFs that are emitted from our phones, our laptops, our Wi-Fi, 5G, smart TVs, other smart appliances around the house. We are constantly being bombarded by harmful EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. And so again, this tripeptide or elevating the GHK copper peptide or the HK copper peptide, I'm sorry, in the case of X49, it is binding to copper, remember, and so it kind of acts as a Faraday cage for the body to help protect you from harmful EMFs. So that was a big draw for me. And then when you combine these two patches, both X39 and X49, there are improvements of both body composition and sports performance by about 30%. So, needless to say, athletes, both professional and amateur athletes, love these two combined. And in fact, you've probably heard the term peptide stacking lately, and that typically refers to the use of injectable peptides to achieve synergistic benefits. So, one plus one equals four, basically. So you're kind of boosting the benefits by combining two. So the peptide stacking term that you've probably heard typically refers to exogenous injectable peptides. And not just AHK and GHK copper peptide, but peptides in general. A lot of people like to stack, but the same can be said about elevating your own peptides with LifeWave's phototherapy patches. So yes, people do wear more than one patch at a time, and that was a question in the chat already. In fact, X39 and X49 are sold at a discount as the performance bundle because they do work so well together. So rather than paying $100 each, per sleeve, so $200 total for these, you can purchase them together as the performance bundle for 180, and then LifeWave takes another $10 off or if the order processes as an auto ship, or a subscription order is another name for it. So they would be 170 this way rather than 200 if you purchase them separately. So that's kind of nice. So again, X39 elevates the GHK copper peptide, known as the mother peptide, and X49 elevates the AHK copper peptide, which is known as the daughter peptide. And while these patches can be used separately for elevating these bioregulators for a myriad of benefits, from reducing pain and inflammation to increasing bone density and muscle mass and so much more, they work synergistically for even more benefits. So, before I start reading questions, I'd like to just remind you that if you're not patching, if you're not using these wonderful phototherapy patches from LifeWave, please connect with the person who invited you here onto this call in order to purchase these or other patches through them. They can help you out with that and help you select which patches might be best for you, and also get the best pricing for you. That's important. And so, I guess with that being said, I'm doing great on time. I'm trying my best here. I may have gone a little bit too fast or not included enough information. So I'll just go ahead and get to questions here in the chat and do that. But let's see here. Okay. Sports exercise recovery, yay. Okay. Let's see. Is there a fat burning benefit? Yes, definitely. So especially for X49, that was one of the benefits. And it's funny. In one of the studies, I was surprised to see this. It's one of the few benefits that women received over men. Normally, that's not the case when it comes to women's bodies, but for whatever reason, placement mattered with X49 for women. So both these patches, both of the placement recommendations that you'll see in the literature is either on the C7, which is cervical 7 vertebrae, the bone that sticks out when you bend your head down, or GV6, governing vessel 6, which is about 2 finger widths below the navel, the belly button. And so those are the most common recommended placements for these patches. X39, by the way, you can pretty much place it anywhere in the body and it's going to work because the patches do work systemically. However, for whatever reason, the X49 patch, when placed 2 finger widths below the belly button in that location on women only, had a pretty significant belly fat reduction. And it was very minor with men, but with women, it was more significant. So I'm not sure exactly why that is, but I love it. Again, women don't receive too many breaks when it comes to their bodies over men. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, fat burning benefit, particularly with X49. And again, I might add that was used in conjunction with exercise, but it definitely made a difference versus the controlled group that did not use it. So anyway, especially visceral fat. Yes, definitely. Visceral fat is typically the fat around your organs, around the abdominal region, and that's the more dangerous fat. So yeah, that's a great benefit. Um, any Any prostate specific benefits? Yes, definitely. As a matter, we have all kinds of testimonials for so many things with both X39 and X49, but particularly with X39, there are definitely some prostate specific benefits. And I appreciate the fact that you didn't use any diagnosis or disease names because we do have to be careful of that. But I will just say that there's kind of um, a a term that people use, a nickname that people call X39, and it's just one letter off, so you can use your imagination. But yeah, definitely prostate benefits and more, and lots of testimonials for that. Because again, organ repair and all kinds of internal tissues, organs, tissues, glands, things like that. So the prostate would be considered a gland. Let's see what else. Michael J. Coe says that he's been wearing a weight loss patch, testing it. Maybe we can get that this year. Wouldn't that be a nice surprise? Yes, I heard that. And I'm not even sure if he was supposed to divulge that, but I'm glad that he did. And I don't know how that patch will work. I don't know if it's like a GLP-1, only natural within our own bodies. I'm not sure yet, but I do hope that that comes out this year. We will wait and see. I know they're just still testing that because all of the patches go through extensive testing and clinical studies. So we'll see. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Is that okay? Heart health. Yes. One thing with regard to heart health, when it comes to clinical studies, the rules are different, unfortunately, with natural products versus pharmaceutical drugs. So we have a lot more restrictions. One being that we can't use any disease names in the clinical studies. So one of the clinical studies was done using the X39 patch on. We have to use systems. So rather than disease names. So one of the clinical studies was performed using the X39 patch on the cardiovascular system, not a cardiovascular disease or anything like that. And so all the participants in the study for the first, well, using the real thing, not the placebo, but for the first 6 weeks in that study, there were some minor benefits, minor results with regard to the cardiovascular system. Nothing that would really be considered statistically significant, but it was only 6 weeks. But it's funny, something happened right at the 6 week mark, and it's almost like somebody flipped a switch, and all of the participants, their cardiovascular systems began behaving as though they were 8 weeks younger. So even though the participants all chronologically aged by 6 weeks, their cardiovascular systems biologically reversed age by 8 weeks. So, and they didn't necessarily feel anything. I mean, you don't feel your blood vessels repairing themselves, for example, but you're going to feel it if they don't. Or maybe not. I mean, some people their first heart attack is their last. So, but yeah, that was a neat study. I love that study done. So these patches are known to be, especially X39, is not just anti-aging as much as reverse aging. And so that's just one example. So, um, where do we find that study? Yeah, that study is found online. There's a website called startx39now.com, and the majority of that information is password protected. And so as you scroll down to get to the majority of the information, you'll have to enter a password, and it's just share, all lowercase, share, SHARE, and that will get you into other information. And in that website, you'll find dozens and dozens of clinical studies. You'll actually find the highlights of the clinical studies. So if they were to put the complete studies in there, it would just really bog down the whole site because there's so much information in there already. But there are the highlights in there. And, if you're interested in the complete study, we can get that for you. But the highlights are what most people are looking for, and that can be found on there. Another question, can we only wear the patches during the daytime? These two particular patches that we discussed, X39 and X49, are both daytime patches. And the main reason for that is increased energy, or one of the many side benefits. By the way, no side effects, only side benefits and lots of them. But yeah, so increased energy. So you want to experience that during the daytime. I don't know if maybe somebody has like a second or third shift job, maybe they would want to wear the patches at night. That might make sense in that case. But for the majority of people, yes, you will wear them for 12 hours a day during the daytime. And my personal 12-hour window would just works with my schedule is 10 to 10. So at 10 a.m., I apply my patches to clean, dry skin. I'm well hydrated throughout the day. And then at 10 p.m., I remove them and then I start the process over again. So 12 hours on, 12 hours off while you're fully hydrated. Very important. So, anything else? I think I did go too fast, or maybe I didn't include enough information. Those are all the questions. Anything else? I think that's it. So maybe I should just cut these calls down to 30 minutes, or maybe just not rush through them so much. But anyway, I guess that's all for now. And thank you again so very much. Be sure and connect with the person who invited you here. If you're not patching, they can help you with that. And we will be back next Wednesday for the Wellness Wednesday call, same time, same day of the week. And we'll discuss a couple of other peptide elevating patches. We'll just stick on this same role, this peptide topic, since it is such a hot topic now. And we'll just discuss a few more patches that are elevating native or endogenous peptides in the body. So thanks again. I will see you then. Take care. Bye bye.